Steve Starks was born in Southern California and lived there until he was 8 years old. Then he and his family moved to Eden, Utah, where they had to make some adjustments to living in rural Ogden Valley.
I remember living in Huntsville, and that we lived where there were some wetlands, and my mom walked in the kitchen and there was a snake, a little water snake on the kitchen floor, and she didn't know what to do, so she took a shovel to it. And so I remember the outdoors, and it's a great place to grow up, great place to be a kid.
After graduating from Weber High School, he then decided to attend Weber State, despite not being fully prepared for college.
And I walked into John Allred's office because it said student, I forget what the sign said, but it was essentially, here's where you come if you don't know anything. And that was me. So I walked in and I said, I want to enroll. And he said, well, have you done this or that? And I hadn't. And so he helped me out quite a bit, and I took the test and attended for 2 semesters.
Steve completed an LDS mission to Mississippi and returned to Weber, where he had many opportunities to get involved as a student.
And I determined that I wanted to get involved, and so I did. There was a vacancy in the Student Senate, and I got appointed to serve on that for half a year. And the next year, I decided I was going to run for vice president with the same kid who was then going to run for president. And about 10 days before campaigning started, he had to drop out. So I was kind of left, and ran and did okay the first week, made it into the finals, and determined that I would run for student body president the last week, but my name wasn't on the ballot, and so a group of friends encouraged me enough to convince me to run as a write-in candidate. And so I did that, and we were fortunate enough to win.
The experience in student leadership had a profound impact on his future.
And so that really changed the whole trajectory of my educational experience, because it was this, it did a couple things. One is it forced me to be on campus a lot. And so I was able to immerse myself in my studies, which I was very grateful for. Otherwise, I would be trying to work and balance everything, and I think my grades would have suffered more. The second thing is it gave me an education outside the classroom that was tremendous, that I don't think I could have paid for.
While at Weber, he also took advantage of an opportunity to study at Cambridge University in England.
And it was a great experience to be at such a hallowed educational place and learn not only from the great professors, but learn from students who were there from countries all over Europe and Latin America and even into Africa. And so that was such a great experience to rub shoulders with people my age from different countries.
After graduating, he looked forward to a career in law, and he landed a prestigious internship in the nation's capital.
After Weber State, I went back to Washington, D.C. I did an internship with Senator Hatch and intended to stay back there and attend law school. And after 3 months of being in Washington, it was again a great experience. Such a good experience that I determined that I wasn't going to stay back there.
Upon returning to Utah, his natural leadership abilities were recognized by Nolan Karras, candidate for Utah governor.
So I was interviewing and had a couple opportunities when Nolan asked me to manage his campaign. And that was tough because I felt like I wanted to enter the job force, in the private sector and get my career going. But yet there was this great opportunity, and in retrospect, I made the right decision going to work for Nolan, even though it only lasted 4 or 5 months. The relationship there was worth it, and the experience that led to other things.
Although Karras lost his bid for governor to John Huntsman, Steve was offered another job opportunity with the new governor's transition team.
That was a tough decision because I felt a sense of personal loyalty to Nolan after having managed his campaign, but at the same time, again, being confronted with an opportunity to go learn how a governor's office is set up, how you staff a cabinet, how you go through the process of interviewing and identifying who ought to stay in state government at the appointed level and who ought to be replaced, and make recommendations. And more than that, there was a broad committee that was formed of people like Larry H. Miller, Scott Anderson from Zions Bank, and others that I would have a chance to work with.
At age 26, Steve was given huge responsibilities. Sometimes he couldn't believe the types of people he was able to get to know.
I had to pinch myself. I lived with some roommates in Salt Lake, and I remember one of them grabbing my cell phone and looking through it, and it said Larry Miller, and that was one of the contacts, and they said, "This isn't Larry Miller." And I just kind of, yeah, actually it is.
Working together on a special advisory board implementing best practices in state government, Larry saw Steve in action, and before long offered him a job with the Larry H. Miller Group.
He just said, "I just want you to work with me and be here for a while and watch me and learn about the company through your interactions with me." And so my first job was to be a shadow, and that actually lasted for about 6 months. And so I would show up at the office with him. I'd go to appointments with him. He would put the calls on speaker, and I would listen to him. And again, going back to having a charmed life, I had to pinch myself to have the chance to work day in and day out with the Larry H. Miller, see how he operated, see how he dealt with people.
Before long, Larry had given Steve increased responsibility and a pivotal role in implementing Larry's special projects. One was designed to inspire Utah teachers by sending them on historical tours led by WSU professors, and that has proved very successful.
And Larry would always say about the project, it gave him a lot of joy before he passed away. It was one of the things that he really loved. But he'd always say, "We've done some good here." And that's how he felt about it. He felt like this was a chance for him to do some good.
Today, Steve continues to be involved at the highest level of the organization.
I was then promoted to be Executive Vice President of Operations at that time. And my responsibilities now include oversight of our insurance companies. I help on acquisitions when we go out and try to grow the business, and on some compliance issues, anything to do with government relations I will do.
Although Steve didn't marry until after many of his friends, he says the wait for his wife Camilla was well worth it. He now enjoys the added responsibility of a young daughter, and Steve is first to admit his relative good fortune.
In a lot of ways, I've been blessed with a charmed life. I've had the opportunity to work with tremendous mentors, from Paul Thompson here at Weber State when he was president. I was student body president. Ann Milner, I would count as one of those mentors. Certainly Nolan Karras, working closely with him. And then you go on to Larry H. Miller that I had a chance to interact with, John Huntsman Jr., Rob Bishop, and I feel very fortunate to have been able to witness these people in action and learn from them.
Congratulations, Steve Starks, the 2009 recipient of Weber State University's Young Alumni Award.